Right.
Yeah.
And then the only American in the top 10 in that division is Jason Litzau.
Yeah.
So that's a really interesting division. We'll see what happens, and we'll see what kind of impact this has on the rest of the division. Now, on March 12th, we have a HBO Championship boxing card. We've got Sergio Martinez back in action against Sergey Dzinziruk. What do you think about that fight?
Might be a bad style matchup for Martinez. I expect him to win. I'm going to make my prediction right now. I think Martinez is hot. He's only getting better. But Dzinziruk is not a guy you look good against. He's very disciplined. His nickname is the Razor, you know, and he is very, very sharp with his punches. Has excellent technique. That jab has been piercing through everyone, and he's been junior middleweight. He was WBO junior middleweight champion for a number of years. This guy is no joke. Gary Shaw kind of pushed this fight to be on HBO, and HBO, and I don't understand how they came from this. They said first they said no to Sebastian Zibic, but apparently they're saying yeah for Zibic to fight Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Then they said no to Andy Lee, but Andy Lee's going to be on the undercard. And they said the only guy they're going to accept is Sergey Dzinziruk. Do I think it's going to be an exciting fight? No. But if you're a purist and you really like boxing, this is going to be a good fight for you to watch because it's two highly skilled guys, two of the best skilled guys in the world in terms of technique and everything.
Now, what do you expect from the undercard fight, Andy Lee versus Craig McEwen?
You know, two tough, honest guys. McEwen's a good prospect. Andy Lee, he's been a prospect for a number of years. He's still trying to break into that contender status, but he's never quite reached it yet. He doesn't have that defining victory yet.
Yeah, I remember when Manny Stewart was on the air talking about how he was ready for Kelly Pavlik.
Yeah, and then he got knocked out by Brian Vera.
Right. So that's going to be on March 12th. Let's talk about some other fighters, and let's stay in the middleweight division, or I don't know what weight. I think it's happening at middleweight. Kelly Pavlik is making his comeback. It seems like all signs point to him fighting on the Pacquiao undercard on May 7th versus Alfonso Lopez. Do you know anything about Lopez?
I have to look more up into him. I haven't heard much about him. I know he's an undefeated prospect who has been some buzz around, but they want to pick him as a comeback opponent for Pavlik if they didn't feel that Pavlik wasn't going to beat him.
Right, and this is kind of, I guess, a showcase to show everybody in the world Pavlik is back in boxing.
Yeah, and you hope so. He had rehab. He's gone through some alcohol issues. We all wish him the best. Pavlik is a very exciting guy, tough guy. And he still has a lot to give in this sport, I feel. He still can make for some very compelling matchups if he can get those demons behind him. Right,
especially with what's happening in the middleweight division now. Yeah. I mean, it's division in flux. He can come over and make some noise. So.
Yeah, I mean, he was beating Sergio Martinez before the second cut just completely, messed him up.
So Pavlik's going to be in action on May 7th. Let's talk about some other upcoming fights. We've got Ricardo Mayorga versus Miguel Cotto. What do you think about that fight?
Cotto's getting ready to fight Antonio Margarito in a rematch in July. And you have Ricardo Mayorga, who talks trash with the best of them. So, I've always been a Mayorga fan. I'm not going to deny it. And the guy is what he is. He's a tough guy. He hits very hard, wild, and you can always expect some very good press clippings from him because he's going to run his mouth and probably verbally beat you down. No one can beat Mayorga in a verbal battle.
Right.
But that's until he gets to the ring.
Unfortunately, this fight is happening in the ring.
Exactly. So that's what's going to happen. Mayorga's been talking trash. It's been very entertaining. And I think it's going to be a fun fight. Mayorga might make it interesting for a round or two. He's not going to dog out until Cotto's body shots start to weaken him. And so that's it. Expect a mid-rounds knockout for Cotto.
Okay. Another fight which I'm kind of afraid for is you have Marcos Maidana versus Eric Morales. Now, this is a fight that Morales asked for.
You got to commend Morales for that. We all know the guy will never back down from anyone. He's as tough as they come, and he has the biggest heart of anyone you'll ever meet. And Morales demanded this fight, basically. He said, if I can't get Juan Manuel Marquez, I want Marcos Maidana. Good for him. The problem is Maidana is an absolute monster, and Morales is old. He's not the Eric Morales of old. If Eric Morales of old was fighting, then I'd give him a very good shot of outboxing Maidana. But this is the Eric Morales of old. This is an old Eric Morales. And I think he'll be competitive for the first few rounds. I mean, I think he's going to show tremendous heart, but Maidana's just going to hurt him. Morales hasn't looked that impressive in his comeback fights.
Right. Now, this fight, I think, is happening at junior
welterweight division. It is. It's for the, is it for the WBA?
I think it is for a belt.
Yeah, probably.
Now, realistically, does this fight have any impact on the division?
No, it's just a showcase fight for Maidana to, look good against a former champion. Look, Morales is what he is. He's come back, but if a guy who's been struggling with the likes of Willie Lyman and Francisco Lorenzo, he's not going to have a chance in hell against Maidana. Look, I mean, I wish Morales has always been one of my favorites, but he's, for all the heart he's going to show, he's just going to take a terrible pounding. I'm nervous for this fight.
Yeah, so am I. Now, speaking of